Before my life broke open, before faith became a battle instead of a tradition, there was a silence so heavy it felt like safety. I lived inside walls that looked like protection, but those same walls would later become a cage. What you are about to read is not comfort. It is memory shaped by pain, fear, and hope. Stay with me because what begins in luxury ends in fire, water, and a choice that cost me everything. Before we go on, please comment where you are watching or reading from. Let us know your country or city so we can connect as one family and continue to pray for one another across the world. I was born into gold before I ever understood the weight of chains. My name is Amina Al-Zahra, and in 2012 I was 19 years old, living in a royal compound in Saudi Arabia. People outside believed my life was perfect. They saw long halls, marble floors, guarded gates, and servants who bowed their heads when I passed. They believed being a princess meant freedom. I learned very early that it meant obedience. My days followed rules before they followed dreams. I woke before sunrise, I washed, I prayed, I covered myself from head to toe, I walked softly, I spoke carefully. Every step of my life was watched, corrected, and measured. Faith was not a choice. Faith was air. I breathed it without asking why. As a child, I believed God was close only because I was told He was. I believed fear was respect. I believed silence was purity. When I asked questions, my mother showed me patience mixed with warning. When I asked too many questions, my father revealed anger hidden behind calm eyes. Curiosity was treated like sickness. Doubt was treated like betrayal. Inside the palace, love was real, but it was strict. My family cared for me, yet their care had limits, shaped by law and honor. I was loved as long as I obeyed. I was protected as long as I did not step outside the lines drawn long before my birth. My sister Zainab was different. She was older by 4 years, braver, and more willing to look beyond walls. She studied quietly. She listened deeply. She noticed the world. When she was allowed to travel to Texas for school, it felt like a miracle. For the first time, someone from our blood stepped outside the system without breaking it. Her leaving changed the air in the palace. My mother worried constantly. My father tightened rules around me. Guards watched more closely. Visitors were screened harder. I was reminded again and again that what happened outside could never happen inside. The world was dangerous. Freedom was a lie. Letters from my sister arrived slowly. She shared her studies, her weather, and her loneliness. She revealed confusion about faith and kindness she saw in people who were not like us. Those letters frightened my parents. I was warned not to read them alone. I was told her mind was being tested. I was reminded that deviation began with small thoughts. That was when the pressure began to grow heavier on me. My phone was checked, my books were reviewed, my movements were limited. Even inside the palace, I felt smaller. My opinions were brushed away. My body became something to guard. My future became something already decided. Marriage discussions started without my presence. My voice became unnecessary. I learned that persecution does not always begin with violence. Sometimes it begins with control. It begins with fear wrapped in love. It begins with people saying they know what is best for your soul while ignoring your heart. There were nights I cried silently under heavy blankets so no one would hear. I felt guilt for wanting more. I felt shame for thinking. I felt fear for loving my sister's courage. I did not yet know that these feelings were the beginning of awakening. When news came that my sister had faced danger in Texas, the palace changed again. Guards whispered, phones rang late at night, faces tightened. I was kept indoors for days. No one explained much. Only that water had risen. Only that death had been close. Only that something happened that could not be easily explained. My sister returned later, alive, shaken, and changed. Her eyes carried something new. Not rebellion, not pride. Peace mixed with pain. She showed me scars, not only on her body but in her spirit. She revealed that in her darkest moment, when water surrounded her and strength failed, help came in a way that shattered everything she believed before. That was the moment the palace walls began to crack inside me. But with that crack came consequences. My sister was watched, her freedom was questioned, her faith was examined harshly. She faced isolation, suspicion, and emotional punishment. Family members treated her like a threat. I saw how quickly love turned cold when belief shifted. I learned what happens to those who step out of line. Watching her suffer planted fear deep in me. I realized that choosing truth could mean losing family, safety, and identity. I realized that persecution was not a story from the outside world. It lived right where I slept. This was only the beginning. What happened next would cost us tears, blood, silence, and exile, and it would force me to choose between the life I was given and the truth that was slowly calling my name. The day my sister left home, I did not know I was watching the first step toward suffering. I thought distance was the danger, but the real danger was what she would discover about truth, courage, and faith. Her journey looked simple from the outside, but inside our family, it felt like the ground slowly opening. Stay with me, because what happened far away would soon bring pain into our house. When my sister traveled to Texas, I stayed behind in the palace, surrounded by guards, rules, and quiet fear. She left with permission, papers, and blessings that felt forced. My parents showed calm faces, but I saw worry in their eyes. I felt it in the way doors closed harder and prayers became longer. Texas sounded like another world. My sister studied there. She walked freely. She learned among people who spoke without fear. She saw kindness without conditions. She revealed to me later that people helped each other without asking where they came from or what they believed. That idea alone was dangerous to our family system. While she was away, my life became smaller. My phone was checked more often. My lessons were watched. I was reminded daily of honor, obedience, and danger. I was told stories meant to scare me. I was shown examples of people who disobeyed and suffered. Fear became a teaching tool. Persecution does not always start with chains. Sometimes it starts with isolation. My sister's messages became less frequent. When they came, they were short and careful. I could feel pressure in her words even without hearing her voice. She revealed that she was being observed by family contacts abroad. She showed me signs of fear mixed with peace. That confused me. Then came the rain. Texas floods are not like small storms. Water rises fast, roads disappear, homes turn into traps. On that day, my sister was caught where escape seemed impossible. She revealed later that fear surrounded her like walls of water. She showed me how strength failed her body and how help came from strangers who risked themselves. But what shook me most was not the water. After the rescue, my sister changed, not in clothes or language, but in spirit. She carried a quiet strength. She revealed that during the flood, when death felt close, she experienced help that did not come from fear but from love. She showed me peace that did not match trauma. When she returned home, persecution began immediately. Her bags were searched. Her books were taken. Her devices were examined. Family members watched her eyes instead of listening to her heart. She was asked to stay inside. Her movements were restricted. Her friends were cut off. She was treated like someone sick with a dangerous illness. I watched her fade. She was not beaten at first. She was erased. Meals were eaten without her. Conversations stopped when she entered rooms. My parents showed disappointment instead of care. Religious leaders visited the house. They stayed long. After they left, my sister cried silently. I saw marks on her arms where she had been held during long prayers meant to force obedience. She revealed that she was told her rescue was a test, not a miracle. She was told her thoughts were sinful. She was shown videos meant to scare her back into submission. She was threatened with being locked away if she continued speaking about what she experienced. This was persecution through pressure. And then it became worse. She was denied sleep. Light stayed on in her room. Guards stood outside her door. She was taken for questioning late at night. She returned shaking. She stopped smiling. She stopped singing softly the way she used to. I was warned not to speak to her alone. That warning felt like a knife. I felt helpless watching someone I loved suffer for choosing truth over tradition. I learned that persecution inside families cuts deeper than hatred from strangers. Love becomes a weapon. Care becomes control. Protection becomes prison. One night I saw her collapse, not from illness, but from exhaustion. She revealed that fear had entered her dreams. She showed me bruises hidden under long sleeves. She did not need to explain more. Her eyes told the full story. And still, she did not deny what she believed. That courage terrified me, because I knew what came next. My parents turned their attention to me. I was questioned gently at first. I was asked about my thoughts. I was reminded of my duty. I was shown how disobedience leads to destruction. I was watched closely. I was warned through stories, not threats. The palace felt colder. I realized then that persecution spreads like fire. It jumps from one person to another. It tests loyalty. It divides families. It demands silence. My sister was eventually sent away again, not for school, but for separation. She was removed from my life under the excuse of healing. That was when I understood that faith can cost everything. Her journey to Texas was not just travel. It was a path through water, fear, rescue, truth, and punishment. And standing in the palace, alone and watched, I knew the same choice would one day stand before me. And when it did, there would be no safe place to hide. Water does not ask who you are before it rises. On the day the flood came, it carried fear, death, and a mercy that would change my family forever. What happened in that water would later become the reason for punishment, rejection, and pain. Stay with me, because this chapter is where fear met hope and where love began to cost more than safety. The flood did not happen slowly. It came with loud rain, broken roads, and fast-moving water. I was not there, but the images were later shown to me, and the fear reached me across oceans. Texas was drowning, and my sister was inside it. She was trapped in a place where water climbed walls and pushed doors. She revealed later that people screamed, ran, and fell. Cars floated like toys. Darkness covered the sky. Fear filled the air. She showed me how panic weakens the body and how strength disappears when nature takes control. In that moment, family power meant nothing. Titles meant nothing. Money meant nothing. She revealed that when escape seemed impossible, help came from people who did not know her name. Strangers pulled others from danger. Hands reached out without asking questions. Courage appeared where fear ruled. She showed me that love can move faster than water. She survived. But survival was only the beginning. After the rescue, her body was safe, but her heart was shaken. She returned to us not broken but awake. She carried gratitude, humility, and a deep calm that did not match disaster. That calm frightened my family more than the flood itself. Because peace without control is dangerous. When she spoke about what she felt during the rescue, elders became angry. They dismissed her experience. They revealed suspicion. They warned her not to give meaning to the moment. They told her to forget feelings and focus on rules. But my sister could not forget. She showed me how fear left her heart during the rescue. She revealed that she felt protected in a way she had never known. She showed me a strength that came after weakness. That strength did not come from tradition. It came from something alive. That was when punishment began openly. Her miracle was treated like rebellion. Religious leaders were invited again. They stayed longer this time. They surrounded her with pressure. They used fear of hell. They used shame of family. They used threats of separation. She was made to sit for hours while being corrected, warned and broken down. She grew thinner. She slept less. Her eyes lost light. I watched silently because silence was safer than love. One night, she was taken away during heavy rain. Not to another country, but to isolation. I was told it was for her own good. I was told obedience heals the soul. I was told pain saves people. That lie hurt more than truth. When she returned weeks later, she was changed again. Not awake this time, but wounded. She walked slower. She avoided eye contact. She flinched at sudden sounds. She showed me marks on her wrists where restraint had been used during forced prayers. She revealed exhaustion deeper than sleep. Still, she did not deny what she experienced in the flood. That refusal made her suffering worse. Her access to food was controlled. Her room was searched daily. Her letters were burned. She was denied medical care at times as punishment. She was reminded constantly that her life belonged to the family, not to herself. This was persecution dressed as correction. I felt fear wrap around my chest like tight cloth. I realized then that miracles can be dangerous in places where control matters more than truth. I learned that surviving death does not protect you from human cruelty. Watching her suffer broke something inside me. I began to question silently. I began to pray secretly. I began to notice how fear ruled our faith. And that noticing made me a target. My parents watched me closely. They limited my movement. They controlled my learning. They separated me from anyone who showed kindness without fear. I was told repeatedly that my sister was weak, sick, and confused. But weakness does not survive floods. Truth does. The miracle did not end in water. It followed us home. It burned quietly in our lives, exposing hearts and systems built on fear. By the end of that year, my sister had lost freedom, dignity, and safety. She had gained truth, but at a terrible cost. And I understood clearly that if I followed the same path, I would face the same fire. The flood rescued her body, but it sentenced her life. And soon that sentence would reach me too. The most dangerous storm did not come from the sky. It rose inside my thoughts, quietly and without warning. Once questions enter the heart, fear can no longer keep them out. This was the chapter where silence stopped protecting me and began to suffocate me. After what happened to my sister, nothing felt solid anymore. The palace looked the same, but it felt different. The walls felt closer. The air felt heavier. Every step I took felt watched. Every thought I had felt risky. I tried to live as before. I prayed when I was told. I covered myself carefully. I spoke little. I obeyed fully. On the outside, I looked unchanged. On the inside, questions grew like cracks in stone. I began to notice fear everywhere. I noticed fear in the way elders spoke about doubt. I noticed fear in the way leaders avoided kindness from outsiders. I noticed fear in the way my sister's miracle was treated like a disease instead of a gift. I asked myself why truth needed force. That question alone felt like sin. My sister and I were rarely allowed to speak, but when we did, her eyes told me everything. She showed me patience shaped by pain. She revealed love that remained even after rejection. She showed me peace that survived punishment. That peace confused me. I watched how she was treated. She was blamed for family shame. She was denied simple joys. She was spoken about as if she was not in the room. She was treated like a warning sign to others. Her suffering was used as an example to control me. This was persecution through humiliation. I was taken aside often. Family members revealed disappointment. Religious teachers warned me carefully. They showed me stories of people who asked questions and lost everything. They reminded me that obedience was safety. But safety built on fear began to feel like a lie. At night, I lay awake listening to guards walk the halls. I heard doors lock. I heard my sister cry softly behind walls. I felt guilt for being safe while she suffered. I felt anger for loving her courage. I felt terror of becoming her. I began to hide my thoughts. I pretended not to notice kindness. I pretended not to care. I pretended not to wonder. But pretending does not kill truth. It only buries it. One evening, my sister was taken away again. This time there were no explanations. She returned days later, silent and weak. She avoided touch. She avoided light. She showed signs of trauma that no prayer could erase. She revealed that pressure had increased. She revealed that threats became more serious. She showed me fear, mixed with determination. I understood then that belief was no longer private. It was dangerous. I was told to choose loyalty. I was told to distance myself from her. I was told to forget what I saw. That demand broke something inside me. Because love does not forget. I began to feel watched, even in my thoughts. I feared my face would betray me. I feared my silence would be misunderstood. I feared my heart was no longer safe. Persecution had reached my mind. I lost sleep, I lost appetite, I lost peace. I smiled when expected and cried alone. I lived in two worlds, one of obedience and one of quiet truth. I realized that my sister's miracle was not only about rescue from water. It was about revealing what fear hides. It showed me that faith built on love does not need force. It showed me that truth stands even when punished. That understanding came with a price. My freedom was reduced. My studies were controlled. My future was discussed without me. Marriage was pushed closer, not out of love, but out of control. I was reminded that my body and life belonged to the family. This was persecution through ownership. I felt trapped. I felt small. I felt alone. Yet inside that fear, something strange grew. Hope. Not loud hope, quiet hope. Hope that survived watching my sister suffer. Hope that survived threats. Hope that survived silence. By the end of that season, I knew one thing clearly. I could not unsee what I had seen. I could not unknow what I knew. And soon, I would be forced to decide whether fear would own my life or whether truth would cost it. The question was no longer if persecution would come. It was how much I was willing to endure. There comes a time when truth becomes stronger than fear. When that moment reached me, I knew I would lose everything I had, but I also knew I could not turn back. After my sister was taken away again, her name was erased from our home. I was told to forget her, but I could not forget the peace I saw in her after she chose Jesus. That same peace began to grow inside me. When my search for truth was discovered, persecution followed quickly. I was isolated, watched, and punished. My freedom was taken. My family turned cold. I was threatened and pressured to deny what I believed. I was shown pain meant to force obedience. Yet fear could not remove the peace in my heart. I lost my title, my safety, and my family's acceptance. But I gained faith, hope, and truth. Choosing Jesus cost me everything, but it gave me life. Please pray for believers around the world who suffer for their faith. Many endure pain and silence every day. If you desire forgiveness and new life, pray simply, Lord Jesus, forgive my sins. Come into my heart and make me new. I choose to follow you. Amen. You are not alone.